Hello everyone, my name is Robert. I want to welcome you back to my Real Talk with Robert YouTube channel. And so this is going to be my second video, part two of Julie's story. So for this one, we're going to talk about how she became a life coach, and she also owns a dance studio. It's called Inspire, and I'm really excited to share that story, and I hope you'll enjoy it. So like always, I would really hope if you could click like, if you could share this video with others, and subscribe to my channel. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy this. I'll see you next time. So, speaking of coaching and everything, a lot of people don't really know, or it's like literally the first time when somebody says, I'm a life coach, and so on and so forth. Can you tell the audience or whoever's watching, what is a really life coach? What's the difference between a life coach versus a therapist?
Yes.
Just kind of briefly touch upon it and tell us about why you got into it and what kind of a training entailed. Just kind of like, more brief manner.
Yeah. Yes. So what is a life coach? Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, and it's an industry that is like rapidly growing right now, which is great because it's another option for people to access their healthiest, happiest life. Right. And so let's see. Okay. So the way that I like to explain life coaching is initially to what coaching is and what coaching isn't, is using different but similar modalities to point out the differences. So therapy would be one. Yes. So the difference between coaching and therapy, and I'm not a therapist, so I don't want to like step on anybody's toes.
Right,
but
it's an important distinction.
Yeah, and we think therapy is great. I will often refer clients to therapy for healing or things that come up, addiction, blah, blah, blah. So therapy is often about healing a trauma, treating an addiction, fixing a problem. There are more reasons that people go to therapy, but therapy is often past-based, although there are newer modalities of therapy that are not just past-based. But so you're looking at what occurred in your past that created a trauma that might be triggering you in your present, that is preventing you from having a healthy and happy present and future. And so a therapist, an expert, will come in, the doctor is an expert, and will create some sort of a treatment program or behavioral practices, and to have you, sometimes medication, to have you living your most healthy and happy life. We also want our clients to live our most healthy and happy life. Sure. But the biggest difference is we are future-based. So we will rarely, maybe sometimes just for a point of reference, delve into the past. And so we work in present to future. So we look at what would your most wholehearted and successful life of meaning, purpose, joy, love, connection, whatever that may mean for you, be in different areas, kind of like you said, that wheel of life, like in career, in family, in romance, in friendships, in social, in passion projects, travel, blah, blah, blah.
To create a balance, essentially.
Yeah, and what would it look like in all these different areas, and getting really clear and on what that is. And then we look at where are you now in relation to this dream life vision. And the other thing is, like, just even sometimes clients come, a couple of things. Sometimes they come and they say, I have no idea what I want in my life, but I know what I don't want. And I don't want what I have right now. And so it's like, okay, cool. Well, let's talk about, and there's different ways to, like, how do you want to feel? If you felt, what do you want more of? What do you want less of? And that's a starting point. So you don't have to come in going, I want this for my career. And it's not like some people come in with very specific, I want to work on starting a business and shifting out of the career I don't like, or I want to work on my romantic relationship with my partner, or whatever it may be. So anyway, so we are future to present, and then we look at what's missing or in the way. And oftentimes we think it's like, well, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money. Like, those are the two biggest ones. Or like, if only I had the partner, then my life would be, or if only I didn't have to work at this job. And I would say it's almost never the surface level thing that's actually in the way, the time, the money, it's a deeper belief or fear or trauma or shame that you're carrying.
Sure.
Or just something that you were taught in your culture, in your family, that made what would be the fullest expression of who you are and what you would want seem impossible. And so I support clients in empowering themselves. Another way that I define what's the difference, what is coaching, is the difference between coaching and consulting. So a consultant will come in, oftentimes in like a organizational coaching, like executive, business coaching, but sometimes in personal coaching, like a consultant will come in and create there'll be a goal that the client wants to reach, and the consultant will come in and create the strategy or the plan to reach that goal. And they're the expert in how to do that. And again, I don't believe I'm the expert in anyone's life. And as a coach, my job, and I believe that everybody is whole, capable, and creative, and not broken. And a lot of us feel that certain things in life broke us. And so my belief is that everybody is whole, creative, and capable. And my job is to hold the space, to get curious with you, to maybe point out some blind spots that you might not be seeing or want to look at, and support you in empowering yourself.
Right. I do want to mention this, that is extremely important when it comes to coaching, that you mentioned, like in the early segment when we were talking about the video story, is that a coach isn't necessarily to give you advice.
Yeah.
Versus, because there are some clients that may come to you and say, I need your advice, Julie. I'm having this issue
Fix
in this
my
area.
problem.
Fix my problem. So tell us a little bit more about that, so people understand that when you hire a coach, do not expect to get answers like you're going to some genie in a bottle, giving all these,
and it's so
quick solutions.
And that was so foreign to me when I began being a coach, because I've been a teacher in the dance studio for 20 years. So I'm like, I know how to teach, and I've learned some stuff about life, and and the idea of leaning back and really trusting that my client has it. And they just don't know it, or they just need to open up the part of them that's gonna speak their truth, or allow them to step into who they were born to be, who they are in their essence, and that full access of power and possibility in connection with others, and again, universe, God, whatever you may believe there. And so another thing we don't do as coaches, or I don't do, is fix problems. And the reason why is because we can fix problems, and then life is good for a while until the next problem hits. And that has us in a cycle of always having to manage our lives, and you're just on this, like, life is good for a while, then there's a problem, then we have to fix it, and then life is good for a while, and then there's a problem. And as a coach, I believe that we can operate on a whole other paradigm where problems are going to happen. It's life. We're going to have highs and lows. There are going to be things that happen that are going to be out of our control, but we will always have the power of who we're going to be in those moments, and where we're choosing from. And again, like we talked about earlier, like, I do not believe that circumstances dictate the outcome. If you're willing to stand for your commitment to yourself, in whatever that might be, to start your business, become a parent, have a higher level of self-love or confidence, or if you're willing to stand in your commitment to yourself until you're standing in it. And what that means, and this is where it gets a little sticky. Like you had said, you had someone who just wasn't willing to do the work, like just got scared and said, I can't, it's never going to happen for me, it's too much.
Yes, he realized that it wasn't how-to video kind of thing.
It's not a fix.
Yeah, the 3 things you do to fix this, and then suddenly, and I think that's kind of my frustrations, because I've been consuming a lot of coaching content on different platforms, and the more people watch it, the more confusing it gets, because somebody could consume a video that says 3 ways to improve your life,
yes.
4 ways to improve your life, the 7 tricks to, you know, it's not a life hack thing where you just, people think that it is actually helpful to some extent to consume videos,
and
but
so go ahead.
It's not a substitute to that real one-on-one coaching session, which provides very personalized and unique value based on your situation and your, you know, your particular problem, you know.
And I think some of those, like the 4 things to improve your life, or those things, like what that's introducing you to is practice. So if we're used to operating, which can be very beneficial. So what I also say to my clients is, like, your transformation isn't what's going to happen in our conversation. In our conversation, we may generate some new awareness about what was disempowering you, a belief that you're holding that may have been your parents' belief and not actually your belief, or your, you know, whatever it is. And that empowers you now to, like, go, wait, maybe I don't actually believe that, and maybe I could have this, and or those moments, or getting curious about, you know, a lot of people don't even give themselves permission to think about, what do I want? Because it's always like, well, what should I do? And I had a coach in school that was like, are you shooting on yourself? Like,
and I've heard of that before.
And you know, or I have to get my have tos and then my shoulds, and then I can think about what I want. Or some people were brought up in a belief system where that would be selfish, and you have to be humble, and you have to be community-based. Well, you can be community-based and still get all of your needs and wants met. And there's that fine line between selfish and self-care. Or is it even a fine line? I don't even know. And maybe selfish isn't a bad word. And you can still have all these other words that balance that out or something. Man, I lost track of where we were, but...
it's okay. Maybe I could ask you a question. What area do you specialize, if you could use that word?
So...
Because somebody might be, inclined to hire you.
So, and I know what I was going to say, sorry.
Go ahead,
and I will answer that question.
No,
what I was going to say is, one of the things that I tell my clients is the growth and the evolution isn't going to come from our conversation. That's where the awareness is generated, and we'll set up structures and practices and actions that will co-create together, that will support you in bridging the gap of where you are to where you want to be. But the growth comes from what you choose to do and how you choose to be and practice in between sessions. So that's where you're going to have to come up against your fears and step out of your comfort zone, and be willing to have a breakdown of your entire way of being in order to have a breakthrough that's going to have you living in a different life.
Because growth, perfectly said, because growth requires certain level of pain. Certain level of fear. Because growth can't happen in comfort. For the most part, I mean, maybe 70% discomfort, 30% comfort, or whatever the statistic.
I don't even know. That's a good question.
But a certain amount of growth requires discomfort and failure and putting yourself out there. Because I've helped people who struggle in dating life, and they don't know how to put themselves out there, and they're fearful, and all they do is just consume videos. But then when they go out there, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what to say, and it takes failure to grow. And
no one even really knows what they're doing when they go out there and do something new, whether it's dating or just trying a new class or a new hobby or whatever, a career.
Some people could appear competent, but not quite.
And then some people choose to never play in an area that they don't already have some level of competence. And that's okay. But that may not give you access to your deepest connection to the life experience.
Exactly.
And that's okay too.
That's true too.
Yeah, coaching is confronting. So,
It is.
and
then,
as a coach, we have to be willing to say hard things and know when to like, give a little nudge to step out of your comfort zone and say the thing. Sometimes we gotta say the thing, and sometimes that makes people retract back into their shell.
Yeah, they get protective mode, right?
They get protective, or they say, "Oh, I'm not going to talk about that,"
No.
And then that's okay too. That's
Exactly.
okay too. Like then we're not going to talk about
Sure.
it. Like I've found that playing outside of your comfort zone is like it's like a different clients need different gradients. So I talk about it like if you're learning to like swim or dive in a pool, like.
Yeah.
You're not going to start on. Some people are like, I'm ready. Let's just dive off the high dive.
Exactly.
I want to nail this thing. I'm not gonna. Not gonna. Wear my swimmies or like.
Sure.
And some people
just
are
throw
like,
me in the deep. Yeah.
I'm not ready. I just want to. I just want to dip my feet in the pool and sit on the side.
Yeah.
And
risk tolerance.
And if they've never gone in the pool,
Yeah.
that's a great start outside of their comfort zone.
Right,
and then it's like we dip the pool and we splash around and it's like, do you want to jump off the low dive now? And they're like, I don't want to, but maybe I'm ready. And then they'll jump off the low dive. And one of my clients recently, we were talking about like, she's like, there's so much fear and anxiety in doing the different thing that I need to do that I know will change my life. And she's like, before I do it, and then when I'm in the moment doing it, and after, it's always like so much easier than I ever imagined it to be. And then I'm like, why did I wait so long to take that step?
Sure.
It's almost always the anxiety and the fear, again, a kind of like and you create all these stories in your mind about how other people will react if you show up differently, if you put boundaries in your life or requests, or you say, I'm an introvert and I only like to be social for 2 hours at a time and then I need to recharge. Like, well, what are your friends going to think if you don't stay till the end of the event? They're going to be like, what's wrong? We create all these silly stories about like,
but ourselves
and some people
are
going to say, I don't, who are you? And then that just lets you know these are not my people. And then that allows you to find your people and create a deeper connection with people in your life. Man, again, I keep losing my train of thought. I think I'm going to have a sip of water.
It's okay. While you're drinking,
we've been talking a while.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry about that.
I love it.
Yeah. Maybe I could ask you a question while you're drinking your water. And so let's say you found a coach, maybe a client or potential client finds you and wants to work with you. How does it work in terms of knowing how many sessions may be needed? And how do they pay you? Is it by per session, or is it by package, or how do you do your business?
And so you would ask me, and I'm going to answer the other question that you asked me too, because that reminded me of it, is what type of a coach am I?
Exactly.
What type of a coach am I, and what's the requirement of my clients?
Sure.
So, or what do I offer in the package? So I, early on in my coaching, and oh my God, can we pause on those two questions? Because I didn't even share how
you became
a coach.
It's okay. We could always
circle back to that.
No problem.
So, because it's a weird. I never expected to be where I am, and it was such a cool. It's such a cool metaphor how when you open your heart, and step outside your comfort zone, you're like the universe, God meets you halfway, or you're met halfway with, and it even ties back into the segment with Vivia, is like, Oprah, one of my heroes, my greatest hero maybe, has this saying where she says, I had a dream for myself, but God had a bigger dream than I could have ever imagined for myself. And I feel like that has been my experience as a client of coaching, through coaching, in my life, when I look back on the things that happened that I didn't want to happen and what gifts came from those things and growth and all that. So, okay, life coach. I decided that I was not going to find a niche and be like a relationship coach or an executive coach or a career coach, business coach, because what I found was when I was initially coaching in all those different areas in my training, that if we stumbled upon something like in career growth or in a business coaching session where a client brought a request about in that area of life, that when we started peeling back the layers of what's missing or in the way, or what is it that you want to access, like in your life, like the deeper level of that, and then we would zoom out of that and go, well, like, where does this show up? Where does this thing that's in the way here show up elsewhere in your life? And I remember when my coaches asked me, like, I think it had to do with like boundaries in my relationship that I was in when I first started coaching with my partner that I was living with. And I remember them being like, well, where else in your life do you have issues with boundaries and making requests to get your needs met or whatever? And I was like, oh, nowhere. It's just in my relationship. Like, everywhere else it's fine. And they were like, okay, well, would you be willing to just take a week and look around in different areas of your life? And I remember I came back after the week and was like, apparently I have no boundaries anywhere in my life. Like, I had no idea. And in little ways where I would devalue myself, where like a dance student would be like, hey, I want to, I was thinking about hiring you to do some private lessons because I really want to get better at the dance for the showcase. And I'd be like, oh, I'm not even going to charge you. No worries. Like, I love dancing. We'll just dance together. And I'm like, wait, why did I say that? Or like, what, why am I not honoring the work that I do? Or like valuing myself, how I value myself, or being able to say no to a parent at the dance studio about a request to put their child in a level that they're not ready for, which I know is not going to benefit them, or all that stuff. Like, I literally came back and was like, oh my God, I've got a problem here. Let's deal with it in all areas of my life. And even though where I wanted the change and the growth initially was in this one area. So I am a life coach. So anything that comes under the header of life is invited into the space. However, I do have clients who come to me for very specific things that they want to work on, whether it's relationship or career or a lot of self, just like confidence. You had mentioned earlier, confidence, living a nourished life, a want life versus a should life, knowing that their life isn't working for them, or having just gotten out of a relationship or out of a lifestyle that they were brave enough to lift themselves up and out of, and now don't know what's next. Or so I've so many different areas. The coolest thing about coaching is after the initial sort of discovery call, the client brings into the space each call what their request for the call is, and what they want to focus on and shift that day. So you had asked about the package. All of my clients, and this was a decision that early on when I was first becoming a coach, I know some of my colleagues whom I had graduated with and had gotten ICF certified, like, they felt nervous to like request of a client. Like, we were all just wanting to get clients in the beginning, and wanted to practice, and still didn't feel super confident, like imposter syndrome of like, I don't really know what I'm doing, even though I passed all the tests, whatever. And but I made the decision very early on that all of my clients sign either 6-month or 1-year contracts.
Oh, wow.
Mainly because if you're shifting a way of being and or even an area of your life, and you really want to have lasting change,
Yes.
It's like building a muscle. You don't go to the gym once and do like or for a month and you can. But if you go to the gym for a month and you work out like you're dedicated, you're committed, you work out like a crazy person, you're like, ooh, I'm starting to see, I've got the muscles, I'm feeling better, I've got more energy, and then
you just let it go.
You fall off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so even areas of my life that I've really delved deep in and worked on and broken down and rebuilt, those little things sometimes come creeping back in. And so until you really create new habits and new and are standing in a, it's oftentimes like with coaching, I feel like the first 6 months, and a lot of people will pick the 6 months at first, especially if they don't know me personally and found me through different ways. Like, it feels safer. Well, if I have to pick, I'm going to pick the 6 months, and I can always re-sign. And the majority of my clients do sign on for at least a year, if not more. But it's almost like that first 6 months is like going into a house that has some mold and some cracks and some things that are like great and upstanding and sturdy and the way we want them, and then going like, all right, we need to knock down this. Sometimes you got to just tear the whole house down and rebuild the foundation, and you want to build a strong foundation, one that's not going to waver at the first circumstance or thing that comes challenges you to go back into your shell and be afraid and go, oh, I gotta quit, or like, so it's almost like that first 6 months is like building a really sturdy foundation, and then you get to build and decorate the house. And then I have clients who are like, and this is me, like I will probably always have a coach, because now I get to decorate. Now it's like I'm choosing from the dessert menu of life. And then, of course, there'll be some lows and things that happen that I'll need to take a look at and see what is that triggering in me, or who am I being about it? Who do I want to be? What do I want to happen here? So there's always work. You're never just coasting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they all sign that. So in a private coaching session, I do 4 one-hour sessions a month.
4 1-hour sessions.
4 one-hour sessions a month. I will sometimes do, like I've had semi-private coaching where I supported 2 women who wanted to start a business together, but we also delved into areas of their lives. So I will do semi-private coaching. And then the thing that I'm doing a little bit more of, just dipping my feet into now, is collaborating with other wellness and like spiritual leaders in holding retreats. So one-day retreats, those are in person, so different than like a Zoom call or a phone call, with different themes and topics, and bringing in the healing modalities or the stuff that I don't do, and combining that with coaching. So you've got like the healing with the curiosity and future-based stuff, and the structure to carry yourself outside of the amazing weekend or whatever, so that it's not just like when you come home from an event and you're like hyped up and you're like, oh, again, or the gym, like New Year's Eve, I'm gonna go to the gym, and then that fall off. So a lot of what I support or co-create with my clients is what's gonna be the structure that will, or the action, and what structure do you need to fulfill on that action when it gets hard, and that will be equal to the level of resistance when you get afraid. And that's a swing and fail game for sure, because you're like, oh, if I have an accountability partner, oh, if I set an alarm 3 times a day and read, my commitment to myself, and you find what works, what doesn't work, for each client, or they find that. So I'm a life coach, anything that falls into the header of life, but we can delve in. The other thing that I say to my clients who come for or a prospective client when we have a discovery call is, in the foreground. So I'm an ontological coach, which is the study of being, how we're being in the world. So it's kind of like our school would say, like, that was the special sauce to the life coaching, to the hamburger. But I'm also certified as a trauma-informed coach, which is like a separate kind of like add-on certification that I did later. And I should say I'm an ICF, International Coaching Federation PCC coach. So you can always look up what that means if you're interested in the credentials. and but so what I tell my clients is in the foreground, we actually work on projects. So we get really clear on what that future vision looks like for you in whatever area you want to develop. And projects can be, again, really like, it could be like project new career, or it could be project make peace with aging, or project boundaries and requests, or it can be something that's very tangible where we can measure the progress very tangibly, or it can be a little more nebulous of a project and you feel your way through when you're standing in it and when you've released what needs to be released. But so in the foreground we work on projects, and we break them down in a way that, so we may people may come and be like, this would be my dream life vision. Like if I believed it was possible. And I'm here. How the hell am I going to get, excuse my language, from here to here?
Exactly.
And it's like
almost impossible.
Well, we don't have to we don't have to worry about that. We're going to create milestones that will be the rungs on the ladder to get you here. So it's like, don't worry about how you're going to get to here. Where do you want to be in a month from now?
Right.
Well, I want to dip my feet in the pool.
Exactly.
And 3 months down, I want to be jumping off the low dive, and then I want to be diving and flipping and whatever.
Is this what you call it, timelining, perhaps?
I don't know that terminology, but it is. It is like a timeline, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then what you do is you only focus on what actions or ways of being or practices are necessary just to reach this first milestone.
Right.
So you're not looking at any of this stuff.
Exactly.
And then when you get there, we celebrate the win. And that's a really important thing that we forget to do. Again, it's like hiking up that mountain. You could just be working on getting to the top, but if you don't stop and look around and go, whew, look how far I made it, and what a beautiful view it is here. I'm going to hang out here for a little bit and rest and celebrate, and now I'm going to get up and go a little further up the mountain to that goal or that, dream life vision. So yeah. And
you must really see some amazing achievements at the end with your clients. And
it's incredible.
And
it's incredible.
Sometimes I think, because I've had this experience before, and sometimes I wish that our school system provided some kind of a way where people could have access to coaches.
Yes, so it's so funny.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What I say is I'm often untying the huge knot for adults, or supporting adults in untying the huge knot of all the stuff that they experienced and learned and tried to make sense of in their own way, or how we all do it. That was before we can start moving forward in a way, and although without delving into the past a lot. But yes, and so one of the things, because I do work with kids, that I will probably do in the future is create workshops, like short-term, 8-week, 3 months, whatever.
They're wonderful.
Workshops to probably initially I'll start through the studio, but could bring to schools. Sure. I don't know if I will facilitate them. I don't know, but I often think that, and I think, oh my God, why, the things that we're taught in school, some of them absolutely we use in life.
Sure.
But there are so many things, even just in becoming an adult, no one ever teaches you how to fill out a W-2 form, or basic, which is not a life coaching thing either. That's not what I'm doing in life coaching. Yeah. But there are so many skill sets that we aren't given access to. And this will lead me actually to why I became a coach. So I grew up watching Oprah Winfrey and was introduced to all these Brene Brown and Tony Robbins and Byron Katie and all those great people. And was a student of life through that medium for many years, and sometimes through my darkest years. And so I've always been on this journey of wanting to live my most inspired life, my best life, and find my way out of darkness when I was in it. And in 2016, I decided to make a decision to leave like my very comfortable life back east, where I had owned a dance studio for 13 years, was living with my boyfriend in a house that I owned. I had checked off the boxes. I would travel to a different country every summer, and life was good. But I felt like it felt stagnant. Like I felt like I wasn't growing. And I made this really scary decision to sort of uproot my life and move out here to Los Angeles, and where I could grow as an artist at the time, before some of my dance injuries, and as a person, and basically start from scratch. I bought a studio that was kind of going under on its way. The woman was retiring, the business was not in great shape, and completely changed it. Anyway, so I came out here. So in 2016, I hired a Tony Robbins coach. I was really into Tony Robbins at the time, and he's great. I gravitate toward different philosophies or different wellness, spiritual coach, motivational leaders at different times. But so I hired a Tony Robbins coach, so not Tony, but someone under his company, to support me in that transition, in the new chapter transition, where a lot of people were very scared for me, and I was like, no, I just want to do this. I have to do it, and that was good, more from a business perspective. But it wasn't until I stumbled upon two coaches who graduated from the school that I graduated from, who are ICF certified coaches, that my entire life shifted and changed inside of myself. My inner life and the external circumstances changed in such a short amount of time that I was blown away. So I moved out here in 2016, and everything fell apart. Like my big dreams, the studio was in much worse shape than the woman had let on. Yeah. Even just the morale of the few students that decided to, make that transition.
Is this the one you own currently?
This is the one I currently own. Yep. I tore 3 discs in my spine because the floors weren't properly sprung, and that was also something that was not disclosed until I found out. So I couldn't walk without pain for a while. With a new business. Initially my boyfriend, he was in the Army, he couldn't get a transfer. He did end up transferring here. And then I couldn't get a house. So I'd sold my house, but they told me, you also sold your business, so we need to see what you make at your new business, so you can't get a house here. So I went back to apartment living, which is not the end of the world by any means, but I had worked so hard to become a homeowner, and then was oh my God, I have to work so hard again.
Like you fell off the mountain, you have to climb back up.
Everything fell apart. My dog of 16 and a half years passed away. It was like all the things. And I had a falling out with my parents, and we'd always had a great relationship, and we're fine now, but it was like just this moment of utter devastation and breakdown, when I had been playing for a breakthrough. And I had been playing to level up. Of course, now I know, in order to really stand in a leveled up life of empowerment and joy and love and all that, you have to kind of be willing to go through the breakdown. Around that, so I did what I always know to do, which is just work my butt off to fix every area of my life. So I was at this point where I moved into this house, and it was a little out of my price range, but I was like, well, if nothing breaks, I'm going to be okay. And the business was growing, but at a very slow and steady pace. My boyfriend at the time had moved out here. We were in this 5-year living together relationship where it was really good and really bad, really good, and we were just never going to get off that wheel. And I stumbled upon these two coaches who convinced me. We did the discovery call, and at the end of the call, I remember being like, oh yes, this is the work that I love, and I'm definitely going to do this, but I don't have the time right. I was working 7 days a week to absolute exhaustion to keep that business afloat and generating and growing, and drama in my relationship, and so I said to them, I'm definitely going to do this. I will be your client when I have the time, when the business is in a little bit of a better place, you know, when I know nothing's going to fall apart in my new house.
Because I imagine it's not it's not a cheap coaching.
Yeah, it's
service.
It's a commitment. It's a commitment, yeah. And I remember them like really pushing. Well, one of the things they said is like, what if you could have all of the things that you talk about wanting without being exhausted getting them? And I was like, I mean, that would be great, but I don't see how that's possible. Like maybe that's a 5-year or a 10-year plan, but what I didn't realize at the time is I had 2 parents who worked and were successful at what they did. My dad retired at 50, sold his business, has never worked a day in his life, enjoys, and somehow he's not bored. He like finds ways to be fulfilled. Right? My mom still, you know, part-time works, awesome. But they both were like successful at what they did, but the model that they showed me, they didn't tell me this. My dad hated his job, hated it, but did very well at it. Always hated going to work. And he would always say to me, I want you to love what you do. Like he never taught me with words, but the model that I saw was, you can be successful, but you have to work really hard. And you have to, you know, it has to be kind of a little bit of drudgery or just a lot of work.
So you modeled after your dad, right? And your parents.
For both of my parents.
Yeah.
So what was so interesting is like, what I've learned is like, oftentimes the beliefs that we don't even know we're carrying came not necessarily from what we were taught, but what we saw or what we experienced, which is another great parenting thing for me to remember. Like, I don't want to pass on my wounds to Vivia, you know, my stuff to Vivia. So I'm always looking at not just what I'm telling her, because I can tell her all the stuff, but she's going to pick up more on what I do in a hard moment, how I'm being, how I handle, you know, how I, so they basically were pushing me to sign on with them, and they were a 6-month sign-on as well. And I remember getting off the call and being like, oh, I can't wait to do that. That was so great. And my ex was like, oh, they just want your money. They had said, I said, can I sleep on it? You know, blah, blah, blah. And they're sales pitching you. And I was like, I mean, maybe, but like something in my heart just said, or that whisper just said, do this, even though it's a risk right now and where you're at. Do you have the time? Do you have the money? What if something? And so I signed on. And within 6 months, I set an income goal at my studio and I tripled it. And I cut my work schedule in half. And I got out of my 5-year relationship in the best way possible. I mean, it was a difficult transition, very difficult, but we're friends. For a while we were still talking weekly, then monthly, and now, you know, every once in a while we touch base. He moved back east. I'm so happy to be out of that relationship. I think he probably is too. But in the way that I wanted, without having to sacrifice how I wanted it to go. And all of that, and that opened up the door for me to make new friendships, enjoy California, have downtime, think about what else I need to fill my soul. And that all happened in 6 months. And I was blown away. And I was like, and that's the external stuff. But how I felt about myself, how I was able to stand for myself, who I was being in the world, it was like a homecoming and a transformation all at the same time. It was a totally new way of honoring myself that I had never probably experienced in that way.
Yeah, that was quite a growth period.
Yeah, it was.
You learned a lot about yourself.
I learned so much about myself, and and things that I'd been carrying, or beliefs that I didn't even know were beliefs that were not serving me, and when I looked at were not actually my belief. Or I learned so much in that 6-month period, and I thought, oh my gosh, like, not only do I want to just immerse myself in this even more, I just want everyone I know and love to have access to this work, because everybody on the planet, like if we were all doing this work, my belief is we'd live in a vastly different world. And so I decided to go to school for a year through an ICF certified, International Coaching Federation certified school, and dedicate a year of my life while still running the studio and doing all this other stuff.
Wow.
And
I wonder how you manage time.
Yeah, and they really, like, it was a very confronting, it's such a love-hate relationship, and it was such an amazing training, but they really, touched the places that hurt for us to find a deeper, greater, more connected with life and ourselves and others experience.
And I was going to say that the side effect of the positive side effect of getting the coaching training is, or was, you finding a different version of yourself and different understanding of the world around you that you probably didn't even expect, right, to gain from this training. Because I feel like I've experienced this where in some ways it has helped me personally, to get my coaching training, where I connect with people in such deeper way, but in a way that I no longer enjoy small talk.
That's right.
I get quite irritated about small talks, and I generally don't like to engage with people unless I see them in a manner that they've really put some time in develop themselves and with ability to really see things in a much bigger perspective and everything, and not have a vision where it's just, they're all on social media and they're just always just consuming the world through that artificial world, so to speak, and just having a very limited way of the lens being very limited or narrow. How did you experience your coaching, where you went through the whole process and then you are now essentially the positive byproduct of it, where you could see life in such different way? It's almost like taking a painting and now you have so much more colors to work with, to paint the picture, versus back then.
So one thing I'll say is I believe that we all crave that deeper connection. We just may be looking in places that give us instant gratification or surface access, and that leaves us just really hungry. It's like if you eat junk food, you're not going to actually feel fulfilled, and you're going to need more junk food versus if you eat, I don't know, healthy but something that's really yummy. We preach about food, but so I believe that even in the whole social media thing, that's something that one of the retreats I'm working on is called Nourished Living, Life Outside of Burnout, Social Media, and the Weight of the World. So right now I'm in the process of creating that syllabus and doing a lot of research and my own deep dive in my own experience with social media, and and asking getting curious with others, and it is, so the more you do your own self-work and become comfortable being vulnerable, and it's never really comfortable, but you do it because there's a little thrill to what's possible if I play outside of this comfort zone, and the more you do it, you go, wow, more than I thought was possible. I thought maybe I was playing for this, but I was playing for this, but I got this, and I got something out of left field that I didn't even know I wanted, and now that's such an integral part of me feeling alive. But it is hard. But one of the things that our coaching school talks about is practicing being with people's survival mechanisms, or being with people, and for my coach to be with mine when I'm in those places of playing it safe or whatever. But the interesting thing is, so you went to your coaching program to gain coaching skills, and what you got from it was some self-work and the coaching skills. So you got both. And I went kind of with the opposite intention of I just wanted to immerse myself in this stuff and then kind of share it with the people I love, in whatever way. And what I wasn't expecting, because I had a whole business that was now on the right track again, and before my dance injuries, and I was dancing my fullest, and I was getting the ultimate gratification from that area of my, like from the career area of my life. And so, but in order to graduate and pass and get certified as a life coach, you have to have paying clients, and you have to pass the different exams and and all the core competencies. And so what the surprise for me was how much I loved being a coach. And one of the things that was great about it and spoke to the opposite of one of my survival mechanisms. So I do an exercise with my client, 2 exercises. One where we come up with your essence words, which are like who you are and your essence. And they're these big timeless words that's like who your soul is, who you were born to be, that often get covered up. Either we're covering them up out of fear, or just life happens and there's just some dirt on them and we got to clean it off and go, oh, here's your radiance. And then I do another exercise with my clients where a little later on, where we name our survival mechanisms. And there's a slight difference if we know the term like ego. It's kind of like your ego, but with a little like twist. And we name them, and the names are kind of silly names. So one of my survival mechanism names was Exhausted Savior. And I thought that was, again, like there's a great example of like, I thought that was kind of showing up in my relationship. And it was kind of how I operated, Exhausted Savior. And being a coach gives me access to putting that down completely, because I'm not here to do your work. I'm here to hold the space, hold this really safe, loving, curious, little confronting sometimes space, and to support you and to stand for you to have what you want and for you to empower yourself. And so I get to lean back and just get curious. And like, that was such a different way of operating. Also, like what was happening in my business and how I'm continuing to like delegate the stuff that isn't fun for me, or where I don't feel like I can be of use in the best way. Mm-hmm. And so, oh my God, what was the question? I'm like lost. And so so you were saying the gift of the self-gift when you go to a coaching program.
Exactly.
And for me, it was the opposite. I went in for the self-gift, and I came out with an entire career. That, during 2020, because I didn't know that was going to happen, was how I paid my mortgage. In California,
Wow.
dance studios were shut down for a year and a half.
Right. Imagine what would have happened if you didn't have this coaching to fall back on.
Yeah, I would have. I don't know where I would have been.
Yeah. And so, how do you market yourself in terms of how do you get discovered?
Yeah. So that is probably somewhere I could level up. It's so funny. I feel so comfortable marketing in the studio. And with coaching, I find I get very frustrated because I'm so passionate about it, and I'm so confident in my skills as a coach, and also I'm so confident in the human beings who come to me, that thing about whole, capable. I'm so confident that the work works. And I've got so much proof to back it up now, but I want everyone to like be the fullest expression of who they are. I want everyone to experience that and know how to move through the pain and all that stuff that's going to happen. It's part of life. But like,
so are you saying maybe you're not marketing?
So
you don't really quite put enough?
I'm not looking. So a couple of things. Before I had Vivia, during 2020, I so when I first started as a coach, I was like, this is going to be a side business because I have a full business that has a lot of different wheels going on, and I don't want to become a workaholic. What I want is to be to uplift and support and inspire in both of my businesses, while uplifting and supporting and inspire both of myself. And so, but I also want to have downtime and light time and play time and silly time and travel time and motherhood. But this is before I was mother. And so originally I said, I only want like 5 to 7 clients, private clients. And that's going to be enough for me to, and sustain that. And then have this, and then have this time and that and all the other things. And in 2020, I was like, okay, maybe I'll up that to 10. And then I got 10 clients. And then I was like, then there's the client that I just, the prospective client that I really want to work with, but that would make 11. And then 12. And then I hit 12 private clients. And I said, and I'm trying to run a dance studio in 2020, which was forever changing, or 2021. And I said, this is too, and then I knew Vivia was coming at that point because she was a 2021 baby. And then I thought, I gotta scale back. Like this is too much, and I love working in all these areas, but I got to scale back. And so I cut my client list in half in preparation for Vivia, and then a little bit more recently, I was like, maybe I even want to cut back a little more. And start adding in the retreats where I'm collaborating with others. Because what I love is, I got so interested in, so I recently experienced a plant medicine experience, which was like totally new to me. I didn't even know what that was about until one of my coaches recommended it as a modality for something that I wanted to heal in my life. And it was an incredible experience in different ways. But then I was introduced to a whole other community of, I had experienced like sound bath and meditation and all of that stuff, but like Reiki, but I was introduced to the spiritual wellness, the spiritual healing side of growth and evolution and healing, and got really interested in it and thought, I want to learn more here. And I'm such a like creative minded person. I'm not and I was like, well, what if we integrate those, how powerful would that experience be, and how magical to integrate this modality with this modality and give that, and I get to learn in the mix of it the whole time. That just really excited me. So I narrowed down my client list a little more in preparation to start running these retreats, and doing more collaborations in the world and in person, just to like have a balance of on Zoom and private one-on-one, and then some in-person group stuff. And just recently I'm like, you know what, I think I'm ready to add back in some more clients. And so I'm in this space again where like, what does that mean? What does that mean for marketing? So everyone says, or the thing that we're told is that you need to market on social media these days.
Yes, that's what I hear.
And
like Instagram being the big one.
Instagram, TikTok, all the the ones, but Instagram, and even like if I wanted to do speaking engagements or something like that, like I'm very comfortable on stage. I grew up in the theater. I grew up performing. So that's another area where give me a microphone and we get to talk about stuff I'd love to talk to people in an audience about life. Like that would just be so fun. And
I think that's a fun idea.
Yeah, and so there's that. But then when you, and I have not tried to do this at all, but then there's that, like, well, how many followers do you have? Who are you going to bring? And it becomes this new game that we're in with social media and devices and all of that. And I am in this very weird space with all of that, where for a long time I just had a strong belief that you don't have to, that's one way, but it's not a way I enjoy, and it's not necessary to be successful. That it's like when your culture tells you this is the way to reach the success and this is how it will feel and be. I tend to be someone who's like, but that doesn't sound fun. So I'm gonna find another way to get here. And so I think for the most part, I have a social media account, and I've been trying to go from frenemies with social media in business market or in coach business marketing to a friendship or like an acquaintanceship, or let's test the waters. And but it takes up so much time and energy, and this belief that you have to put content out constantly
on a constant basis and being in people's face
and
all
I'm
the
not
time.
ready to do that. Like, I'm just not ready to do that. And I recognize, like, when you look at the statistics, I recognize that I do need to open up my heart to it a little bit more. And maybe that looks like taking a course so I can understand it more, or but I'm not ready to. I do post and I do create some videos. I find that when I sit and talk about something that lights me up to the camera and put it out there, it's so freaking boring to me. Like, I don't even want to watch it. So I'm like, and I'm not a good bottom liner. So I'm like those like 30-second things where it's like,
I know, you have to be
a
very
great
concise.
aha moment.
Exactly. Because people's attention's rather short.
Totally.
And that's kind of concerns. That's concerning for me because, long form talk sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily for the younger sometimes generation.
Yeah,
They just
it's
want
very different.
Consume so many different things in short time.
Yep. And then it requires editing and cutting and all that stuff, which I think, I'm trying to open up my heart. And just my heart. Doesn't mean I have to even take action right now to and I've done a couple of, so I tried to get creative. I think your wife and I actually started talking because of one of the more creative ones that I did. It was kind of like a little confronting and daring and a little nervous for me to release. That got some interest and generated some interesting conversation, and but it took a lot of time to do that. And again, I'm a mom. I'm too busy, and I don't. And it was fun. I actually enjoyed the process. Then I did another similar one. What I find is I like doing this rather than like doing this, And so that's another avenue that I think I'd like to do more of. So I've done a couple of podcasts, and like, I love it because then I can put it on my social media, or I can cut little clips of like the interesting conversation that came from just having a conversation with another human about stuff that we're interested in. And so I think for me, it's about utilizing. So some of my clients are word of mouth. Some are just me. I find that I get clients, even sometimes people I don't know, by talking about coaching. I like share it in conversations. I got a client where we met. She stopped to pat my dog and look at my baby and was telling me about her life. And I was like, can I offer you something? And I'm a life coach, and we had a little conversation, and she was motivated by it. I gave her a little card, and she became my client. Like, I was like a random stranger on the street, and or sometimes people find me from my website. Sometimes people, I've worked with a lot of people I know who've watched my life transform, who go, wow, Julie's like a totally different person than she was, or look at what she's created, or look at how daring she is, or she's not ashamed to share her story or afraid to share her story of Vivia's birth story, or to drop a life that was completely working with all the check boxes for something bigger and better, or like something that would let me grow and expand and fall apart and all the stuff in between.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you made, because for me the challenge has been not being able to quite make that same impression, where I feel like when I talk about, let's say, me being a coach and everything, it's almost like as if people look at it like, okay, where's your credibility? How do I trust that you could help? It's almost like I've had that struggle. Okay, how do I prove that actually I've got the skills for it and everything? But obviously, I am also working. I'm very busy, but I don't really put a lot of effort in that. But yeah.
So one of the retreats that I've recently written is about confidence, and when we look at where we are confident in our lives, it's where we're already an expert, or we know what we're doing, comfort zone.
Exactly.
Or there's pretty much a relatively known outcome. And so when you're beginning your journey as a coach or in any new journey, you're a beginner. And you don't, I remember 2 months into coaching, they were like, great, go out and get clients. And I was like, what? This is a year-long program. I'm not ready. I don't know what I'm doing. And they're like, how are you going to know what you're doing? You gotta
put yourself out there.
Yeah, and it's not on you. You're here to support the client in empowering themselves. You're not here to be the expert. And so, God, I remember those first, not even just clients, but like those discovery calls with prospective clients, being so nervous, and just wanting so badly to help and support, and that's where, when I was going for certification and getting the marks of where I'm succeeding and where there's still work to do, and most of my work was in leaning back and allowing and trusting and getting curious, and so the credential thing, it is a challenge right now, because in our country anybody can call themselves a coach, and in other countries it's different.
Yeah, it's not regulated in the U.S.
It's not regulated in the U.S., and so
that's the problem.
And I'm sure there's more than. So when I did my research about where do I want to go to school, number one, I ended up going where my two coaches that had the biggest transformation. So I'd had three coaches, the Tony Robbins coach and then this one, are these two who graduated from the school that I went to, and that is the school I chose, and I did chose to go through the International Coach Federation to get certified. But so I don't know all the different options out there, but that particular certification is a world-renowned certification where in some countries you have to have that International Coaching Federation certificate, is that the right word? Credential,
Sure.
to be a coach, and the ICF is trying to regulate trying to implement, whether it's with other groups or I don't know, but I think because it's such a growing industry, and we've got famous people have life coaches, billionaires have life coaches. I had a client, a young man who goes to an Ivy League school, wants to be a finance, in finance and banking, and very, has always done everything high level. And it was well, what brought you to this conversation? Oh, well, all of the his role models, the billionaires, have life coaches. And so, but everyone, and you don't have to be this high-level person or success in the way that everyone can benefit from life coaching. And
absolutely.
I think that's the other thing with that balance for me of wanting to value the worth of the experience and working with me, but also making it affordable, not just for an elite group of people, or
Right.
offering my services. So I've been in talks with I have a friend who works for a law firm who supports foster women who are having babies. So they're teens or just about ready to age out of the system. And I've been speaking with them about putting together a program where I could work with that group of people who wouldn't normally have access to a life coach, or so. But what I would say to you is, if it lights you up and you like having the conversations, just keep doing more of it, and you'll settle into what type of a coach you'll be. And one of the things our school said to us is you never can really do harm. So you don't have to worry about that. Your client's coming because they want to create their best life. So that's the topic's going to be around that.
Sure.
We don't deal, we're not therapists, so we don't delve into the healing or the, even with the trauma certification, we learn to honor the imprint of trauma without attaching it to who you are or how that will dictate your future. So yeah, and trusting that your clients are more powerful than they know themselves to be, and just showing that to them, or reminding them, or
Right.
giving them ways to practice accessing those parts of them.
Exactly. And yeah, I look forward to that opportunity, when I am able to do that. But at the same time, I think doing what we're doing today, putting out a story in a such unfiltered fashion, I think that's something that really energizes me quite a lot.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, we live in a society where people, highly look up celebrities and people that are, like, quote unquote influential. They're, like, way up there in the society, but it's not just their story that is interesting. It could be just everyday average person who could share a story, and another person could say, wow, I learned something from this, or I could relate. I'm not the only one
Yes.
that I went through this. Because, I've been through things in the past, and when I share it, people are like, wow, you are here. You seem so normal and so functional despite of those things. And I think it gives people a sense of hope. And that's really what I really want to do with this also, to let people feel there is these stories out there, they're just not told.
Yeah.
And I want to tell it.
Yeah.
I want to bring it out to the surface.
And what a great way to serve, and to it's so needed. And like the I'm not the only one thing, that comes up. That's often like the shame thing, where like we hide the thing that we think makes us wrong or bad or not enough or whatever, and then when you do bring it to light, or you share it with a coach because that's a safe space, or your therapist or a friend, and then you learn, like, or like I often see, like, the things that my clients are so afraid to say or do, when we peel back the layer, it's like the same shame feeling, or the same you're not the only one, and we all, and I think what's so, even if you think about celebrities, like the parts of their lives that really speak to people, like when a celebrity shares something that they've gone through, the part that, or at least the part, I don't know about other people, but the part that speaks to me is that human part, like, oh, their lives can get messy too. They have, and like, maybe they have more resources to dig themselves out of hard times, or maybe not. But like, pain is pain, and we all feel it. Joy is joy. Love is love. And like, we all, on this journey of life, get to experience the cycle of that.
Right.
It's like nature. Like, there's the death, and then there's the planting, and there's the rebirth and the bloom, and then the dying and the death. And everything's like cyclical like that. So if you're constantly trying to go this way, or you're trying to hit this space where life is wonderful and great and there's never a problem, that's not the journey. That's not what, but there is a way to courageously move through those times, and feel the breakdown, and know that this too shall pass, while being choiceful about how to move through, where you're going to, what you want, taking what you learned from that experience and turning it into like the greatest gift. And now when I look back on my whole life and I look at the hardest times in my life, there's like, and the biggest traumas, there was always a greater gift, and not just a lesson, definitely some lessons. And that thing, if you don't hear it the first time, like you're gonna get the lesson a little louder until you actually pay attention, because it's screaming at you in the face and you can't avoid it anymore. But like, but a gift, like when you're ready. And that's the other thing is like with coaching, and you talked about like getting new clients, like I want clients who are ready. And even if they're terrified, they're ready. They want something different. They're tired of settling. They're tired of living an unsatisfactory life because better than failing or experiencing disappointment. And that's another thing we haven't talked about, is the failure, like your relationship with failure. And it's not my favorite thing to do, but it's not a comfortable place to be in. But it's like failure is such a gateway to greater possibility. And it's something that if we can learn to embrace, and I'm still learning. Failing's not something I love doing.
Yeah.
And move through and stand for, and not get lost in, not attach the failure to who we are.
Right.
So like the identity to the thing that didn't work. There's so much possibility to really live a life that is magical and fun and inspiring and messy and hard.
Yeah.
And supported,
That's true. I do have a question to ask you about this one thing. That's to kind of wrap it up a little bit almost, but if you could take all the learned lessons and all the different things that you've been through in life, if you could just tell one thing about, if you could, let's say, go back to the past and give yourself one most in wisdom, imagine you being this young girl, maybe in a state of not knowing where you are in life, and life could be quite confusing when you're quite young. You don't have that wisdom and that vision that you have today because of all the different things you've been through. What would you tell your younger self?
So two things are standing out. One is kind of about trust, and not just self-trust, trust in the universe, trust in others, trust like, and the idea that it will be okay and I will be okay no matter what. It will be okay and I will be okay. I might not be in this moment,
right, but
it will be okay and I will be okay no matter what. The other thing is that life is so magical, and I am, and you are the magic. You are a part of that. That's who you are. And if we can pause and just look around, it's everywhere for us to see. Like I can look outside right now and I can see like the way the light is hitting the trees and it's beautiful. And like it's noticing and remembering the magic and knowing that is who you are and what the experience is. and that it will be okay and you will be okay.